Okay, welcome to The Actor and the Engineer. My name is Paul James. I come from the acting background.
And I'm Josh Knapp, and I am a broadcast engineer.
What was that?
You could have slowed down at the end.
I don't know. Every once in a while I want to change it up a little bit, but it gets so rote that
I know.
I don't know. What was that?
I don't know.
I
You
guess
were thinking about something and talking at the same time, and that's what came out.
Yeah, that's exactly what came out. Well, here we go anyway. That was kind of fun.
So today we're going to talk about, do a little bit something different today. We're going to talk about TV shows, but the TV shows we're going to be talking about are more like long-form movies. But before we get into that, the Superman v. Batman.
Actually, it's Batman v Superman.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I only watched it twice.
I'm obsessed with it.
The trailer came out.
Yeah.
Okay, I have not a lot of, built-in. Same thing. I was talking to somebody today about Fantastic Four. He's like, "Did you see the trailer?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't really know anything about it, so I don't have a dog in the fight." And the whole Batman Superman thing, I didn't even know that was a deal, but that's a big deal, I guess, in the comics. Is that?
There's a precedence for it. Yeah,
Okay.
It's been done before. They've both been Public Enemy #1 in a couple graphic novels, and they've made a animated movie based on that graphic novel where Lex Luthor becomes the president and then declares Superman and Batman Public Enemy, and then other superheroes and villains go out to get them and destroy them, and it's all about their quest to figure out how they're going to convince the world that Lex Luthor is the bad guy.
Yeah.
So there's a precedence for it.
Okay.
Batman versus Superman, it's like when they do crossover things, when so-and-so shows up in the Avengers and you're not expecting it. Everybody's expecting Spider-Man to show up in this new Avengers. They're not sure what's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, I don't think it's going to happen. It's too soon, actually, in my opinion. Maybe third or fourth film later on. But when those kind of things happen, people get excited. So it's sort of a way to
Rejuvenate?
Yeah, I would say rejuvenate, but it was a smart move for Warner Brothers, is it? Mm-hmm. Because they've been trying to get a group picture, meaning a group superhero film off the ground. They're trying to do Justice League. And this was
Suicide Squad.
Well, that's going to be
Is happening.
Yes, that's going to happen, but that got greenlit after all of this. I
Okay.
mean, there's a whole next 10 years planned out for Green Lantern movies, Flash movies, Wonder Woman
so
movies.
DC's doing that.
Correct. But
Okay.
isn't Warner Brothers owns DC?
I think maybe they have a relationship for releasing the...
Because
yeah.
Marvel is its own studio.
Yes.
Okay, which was probably smart.
But Marvel has to have somebody release their films. Like, I believe they still have relationships with, like, Warner Brothers and or other companies for releasing the film, especially overseas.
Right.
So-
And that's why there was such a big deal about the Avengers and Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch being in the X-Men film and this one. There's this strange little...
Because Fox owns certain
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
and-
it gets a bit confusing. But I mean, back to the point is that Batman versus Superman was a great way to get this Justice League project off the ground. So this one is actually called Batman v Superman, which we were just discussing that we don't really like that. Why isn't it just called Batman versus Superman?
I don't know. I don't know what the history of, like, the using a V for versus instead of VS period.
Right. Well, that's
But-
what we're traditionally used to, right? Is VS.
That's what I've seen.
Okay.
But
Maybe it's because it's Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice. So they're going to incorporate Wonder Woman into this film somewhere. They're going to incorporate Aquaman into it somewhere, and he looks really cool. There's talk about The Flash. There's talk about Green Lantern. They're not sure where or what.
But it's going to be a different Flash from the one on the TV show, I guess. And
Yeah.
a different Green Lantern from Ryan Reynolds. I
Yeah,
guess.
Ryan Reynolds is definitely out because he's back to doing a Marvel character
He's
now.
doing Deadpool.
Yes, in the traditional costume. So I'm all about that. But anyway, the Batman versus Superman trailer came out, and the week before, the Star Wars trailer came out. I saw that once or twice, and we discussed about the Star Wars trailer that we didn't want to watch it too much so we wouldn't know too much. I have seen the Batman versus Superman trailer at least a dozen times, at least. And I'm still trying to figure things out. For example, Who is that speaking? Now you hear all
okay.
of the all the voiceovers in the beginning. You hear Holly Hunter.
You do hear Hal Hunter. You hear the first one is Charlie Rose, and he's probably playing himself,
Right.
as an interviewer,
Right.
And then later on in that, as it's pushing into the Superman statue, you start hearing Lex Luthor.
Okay. So that's him.
That's Jesse Eisenberg.
See, I didn't recognize his voice, and then you hear.
You also hear Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I think I may have dropped his name before. He's an astronomer and he works at an observatory, I think in New York City. He's a big educator of people, and he's done TV shows. He did Cosmos. He was the main guy, the narrator guy, the host of Cosmos. So you hear him talking, probably as playing himself in the movie.
Interesting.
And
then Jeremy Irons, who's going to be
he's
Alfred, and then you see Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm not going out on too much of a thin wire saying that I think he's going to be the best Bruce Wayne that we've ever had so far.
Best Bruce Wayne.
Yes.
Huh.
Yes, absolutely. No doubt.
Really?
Absolutely. When you see him in that context, you go, that's Bruce Wayne. You just do.
Okay.
I'm not saying anything about Christian Bale or Michael Keaton or Val Kilmer or any of them. They weren't bad. Bruce Wayne.
Left out George Clooney, by the way. I don't even know if I saw that. I don't even know if I saw that movie. Was that Batman Robin?
Yes.
I didn't see that
one. It's a ridiculous mess.
Okay.
And we don't really overtly criticize directly. It's fun. It's got its moments, but it's a mess. It just is.
Okay.
But then you hear Jeremy Irons, and then you hear, I think it's Batman's voice, where he says, "Do you bleed?"
Yes, that is Batman's voice.
Okay. Yeah. And then he says, "You will."
His voice is also computer, something's changing his voice that's not him.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
It's not the Christian Bale.
Right. Which makes perfect sense, because how do you not sound like Bruce Wayne, one of the most famous people in that community? He's been on TV. He's going to be interviewed. He does all these charities. He's going to be interviewed. So what's the word? Mechanized his voice, or what do you call it?
I don't know. I mean, you can use filters. I mean, the software that I use to edit this podcast, I can put filter. I can make us sound like robots.
Let's sound like Batman in the beginning of the show.
Okay.
Welcome.
Now people will understand why we sounded like Batman at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, there you go. That's what we were doing. Yeah, it was intentional.
Sure.
No, but what I'm saying is if there's a justification for why he sounds like that, if he purposely makes himself sound like that, I'm going to like that, because that makes perfect sense. And you were asking me before we started the podcast whether or not I like the new costume. The answer is yes, yes, and yes. The fact of the matter is that he finally looks like the size Batman looks like in the comic books to me. And
this is, he looks huge.
Huge.
Oh,
he looks great. When he comes out of that little wreckage or whatever's going on, he kind of tilts his head and he walks around. I'm like, that's Batman.
Huh.
I have no problem with the other Batmans and the way that they look, but I always thought Batman should be bigger. He should be able to just beat the hell out of anybody who comes in his way. That's what he looks like in the comic books.
Because he doesn't use a gun, right? That's pretty okay. Even though there's a shot of him with a gun, but it may be like a grappling hook or something.
Well, there's also a machine gun on the front of the Batmobile too. There's two machine guns on the. Who knows what that's for though?
Okay.
I mean, there could be lots of different reasons, but it depends on where they're going with this. Because if it's based on the Frank Miller graphic novel, Batman's just a little bit more, believe it or not, darker, a little bit more twisted. He's older. He's just done. He's done with explaining why he's a vigilante, and he's just going to take you out. Get out of my way. And I actually think, no, he uses rubber bullets in that. He uses rubber bullets in that. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, what they're going to do. For me personally, I liked Watchmen, which Zack Snyder directed. I was okay with the Superman film. It was okay. I had my issues with it.
There were large issues, but other than those large issues, I thought it was
this film looks par for the course. It looks just like all those films. So we'll see. I have no idea. The fact that two of my favorite comic book characters in my favorite league is coming together, I can't help but being excited about it. it looks the way that they shot the Batmobile in the trailer looks really cool. He looks cool. They got him on top of a tower, meaning Batman. I was like, okay, there are a few things that Tim Burton just didn't do that Christopher Nolan went, wait a second, we're always seeing Batman on a rooftop with his cape flying behind him, looking menacing over the city. Where is that? It's all over the Dark Knight series.
Yep.
And so Zack Snyder took a clue or a cue from Christopher Nolan.
Well, and isn't Christopher Nolan involved in this
Producing.
too as a producer? Okay.
Yeah, but he came. See, I'm confused about it all because I think he came on later on. No,
he did Superman
yes,
too.
That's
he was
what
executive producer for Superman, but I wasn't sure if he was still involved in this one or not. But I do know that David Goyer is co-writing this movie, and he did Dark Knight.
There you go.
Yeah,
because The Dark Knight is probably script-wise the best of all of them so far. And there was talk about it being nominated for Best Original Screenplay, and it's a heist movie. It's a Sidney Lumet heist movie from the 70s with Batman and the Joker as the villain and the good guy. So I'm all about it. We'll see. I hope I don't get too excited and then get disappointed, but I can't imagine myself not owning this film eventually and watching it over and over again, as I do with all of, you've seen my place. It's got Batman everywhere.
Yeah.
I have a thing for Batman. I have from the day I was born. My mom was like, when you were 3 years old, you were looking, going, what is that? And then when I was old enough to read it and then figured out what he was all about, I couldn't stop thinking about him, So there it is.
Yeah. Well, that's great. All right. And then you said that you had something you wanted to talk about?
Just wanted to talk about a couple of corrections, small corrections from last week's show and questions. It's one question and one correction. The first question is it Milos Forman or Milos Forman?
I thought it was Milosh.
Milosh? Okay, so I mispronounced that every single time then, and that bothered me.
Okay.
Because when I listened to it, I was like, wait, what is his name? And there's a point to this that's even bigger than that. And also, did you catch the fact that I was saying lip singing, not lip syncing?
I didn't catch that.
Okay, you know what's crazy about it?
What?
Is that in both those two instances, I thought I was saying Milosh, and I thought I was saying lip syncing.
Really?
And then when I
Did
heard
you hear it back?
And then I heard it back and I was like, am I saying lip singing? Oh my gosh. And then I said it again. I go, I am saying lip singing. I was talking about Marion Cotillard being a winner for lip syncing Edith Piaf's music. And she's the only one in Oscar history to not have sung her own music. All the other ones were nominated who lip synced. And the ones who really did sing have won. Sissy Spacek, June Carter Cash, Reese Witherspoon, and then Marion Cotillard is the first to lip sync to the music. And I was listening to it going, I'm wondering if people don't know what I'm saying, because when I listened to it, I was like, wait, am I saying lip singing? And my brain heard lip syncing when I was saying it.
Huh.
So where's my,
He's Czech.
he's Czech.
Now
so
here, let's try
Milos.
this. Here we go. I'm gonna play something that it's somebody from Czech Republic saying it.
Okay. Miloš. And I was saying Milos.
Yep.
And that's not even a name. So there it is.
It's okay.
Yeah. No, it's not. I'm not, not like, it's not self-deprecating. I'm just saying that there's a mad respect for this person that I have. And if his name is this, I wouldn't want somebody to be calling me, I mean, my name is Paul. So so out of respect, when I heard it, I was like, wait. And I've been saying pronouncing it that way for years. So correction done.
All right, great. Well, now we're going to get into talking about 3 shows. They all, as I started putting things together, they all have amazing similarities, and I think that there's probably a good reason why. Maybe subconsciously we put these together. So we will be doing spoilers for each of these 3 shows.
Yeah, it's impossible not to.
It is impossible not to. We're going to be talking about House of Cards, True Detective, and The Fall. So let's talk about House of Cards first.
Okay. Which you just recently finished.
I finished it last week, the 3rd season. So, and I've kept up with each season, as they come out. I mean, kind of. I mean, it's been out for 1 or 2 months, I guess. But
Well, considering most people binge watch and
Yeah.
get it over and done with in 3 days.
And I don't think I could do that with this show. I don't think I could do that with any of these shows, really. I was really appreciative that I got to watch True Detective once a week when it came out, and I think that really helped me. But anyway, back to House of Cards. So did you binge watch the first season? Or?
I need a clarification on what binge watch technically
okay.
means. Okay, so that means you just continuously watch it until you go to
You don't watch anything else.
Okay, I watched one episode a day until I watched the whole series for all 3 of these shows.
Okay.
So is that binge
Well,
watching?
I mean, yeah, I would say, I don't know. See, that's tough.
No, I
because-
think it's like you watch like 4 or 5 in a row, and then you have to eat.
Yep.
Then you watch 2 or 3,
Okay,
and
no,
then
I
you have to
didn't do that.
sleep, and then you wake up, and then you watch one before you go to work. That's binge
Mm-hmm.
watching.
But like, for example, when I ended the third season this past week, I was working weird hours, and I watched 4 episodes in a row. And it was crazy. I mean, I started at midnight and I finished at like 4:00 in the morning.
That's because you were working nights.
I was working
so
nights.
Your schedule
but,
was different.
But still, it didn't matter. Like, my body still kind of wanted to go to sleep, but then I also wanted to like finish this. Like, I wanted to see how it was going to end.
That's why these are more like movies than they are like TV shows.
And then one leads into the other, but it's not a, dun dun dun.
No.
What happens next week? It's a ramping up and it's an ebb and a flow. But there's nothing like, if you asked me to tell you exactly when the end of an episode was, like in this particular portion of the show, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you exactly when an episode ended because they don't do necessarily the cliffhangers.
Although you
in
do
this
find
show.
yourself wanting to know what happens next. You're like, when you start to pop in or start to press play for the next one,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, wait, what is going to happen to her? What is going to happen to him? Oh, they left this open. They have to, yeah.
But it's not a literal cliffhanger.
not at all.
I mean,
Not at
there's
all.
somebody's not hanging off of a cliff.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, I guess we should. I was gonna just pretty much like focus on the third season, talking about the third season. We can talk about the whole show and what makes it good. One thing I did want to bring up is that the beginning of the show, I sat down right as the show came out, the first season, day that it came out. I sat down, I got Steph next to me, and we are hit and play. It's David Fincher. It's in my wheelhouse, and you got Kevin Spacey in there, Robin Wright, who I hadn't seen in a long time, and the first thing that happens is he comes out. He sees a dog that was hit by a car. He goes up to it. He addresses the camera, which is called direct address, by the way. Somebody was talking, Bo Willman, the writer of House of Cards, calls it direct address. Now, we call it breaking the fourth wall, which it is. But I guess there's another technical term for it called direct address. But anyway, he talks to the camera, and he says that he's not going to, there's no point in suffering. There's no point in allowing suffering. And so he wrings the dog's neck and kills it. My wife was out.
Yeah.
She's like, that's it. And then we started talking about it, and come to find out that Bo Willman, the writer, and even David Fincher, got blowback for that, I guess. And, Willman was willing to figure out a different way to start the show. But David Fincher was like, no, I mean, either they're in or they're out. And this is going to happen, maybe not this exact thing, but something like this is going to happen however many episodes down the road, and they're gonna have that I'm out moment, and this is separating the wheat from the chaff, kind of. It's saying like the people who are interested in this, if they can get through this scene, then they'll be able to push on through the rest of the series.
Well, it's kind of what made me interested in
too.
because it makes perfect sense what he does.
This guy's the hero of the show.
Well,
that
you said it the best. You said he is a man who has to do what he has to do, and he's the one who's going to get the job done, even if it means, well, what's the difference between that and shooting a lame horse, putting him out of his misery? What's the difference?
He had no idea what was wrong with that dog. It could have been a broken leg, which is very easily fixable.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, but he just...
But it's played like the dog's really hurt, though. So
But you don't know. I mean, and so... But what it does, it's a device, and they do a good job of using these devices to inform you of the character and to bring you into a character quickly, especially since there's so many characters.
Yeah.
And so that right there, you also have, this is on the coattails of Breaking Bad, which you have a protagonist. He's not even a protagonist. I mean, you have a main character.
It's called an anti-hero.
An anti-hero, yeah.
Right. I think that's what he's called.
Okay, so you have an anti-hero, but the way that they twist the viewer is by making you root for this anti-hero.
Yep.
And so people, viewers are going through these emotions while they are watching the show. You sit here and root for this guy to ruin someone's career or ruin, whatever, or not kill somebody, or you feel a sigh of relief if somebody's killed because they're not going to affect,
or they got what was coming to them because they stepped in his way.
Yeah.
They should have been smart enough to have foreseen that this guy is going to push them literally, figuratively, and emotionally off a cliff or wherever he's going to push people.
Possibly in front of a train.
Possibly. So the thing that I find interesting is when you do root for somebody who's doing that, when you come out of watching the show, you're like, wait, that's the bad guy. Like, he's not a very good person. He's so ambitious. There's a great line in a song, ambition bites the nails of success. And for me, that means that no matter what you do, you have something as a goal and it doesn't matter who's in your way. Get out of my way. I'm getting that. I'm going to get the prize. Mm-hmm. So what is it about us as human beings and our nature that we actually, and I like the idea of saying we rooted for him, because that's true, because you're like, well, of course that person's got to go because he or she got in that person's way or Kevin Spacey's way. Mm-hmm. And you're 100% behind him, even though he is not a good person. Mm-hmm. And you're thinking, when is his karma going to come into place? When do these people of these big power positions, I look at somebody the wrong way and I have bad karma for the next 3 days? When is the what comes around goes around part's going to happen?
Yeah, and he's riding this wave and he's right on the crest of it the whole time. And I mean, in the first season, he expects to be Secretary of State, doesn't get it, and then he starts to finagle his way into becoming a trusted member of the president's, inner circle, even though he's just the majority whip, even though he's way, way down on the call sheet.
Well, he says
as that's
that
concerned.
when you see the president's speech on the Capitol, and he goes, "Hey, I'm over here, way down here. This is me down here.
Yep.
See that position up there? I'm going to be there one day. Mark my words." He doesn't say it like that, but that's basically what he says. And he is a man of his word, because that's exactly how it plays out.
It is. Yeah.
And it's amazing how the show will jump almost into not logical conclusions. Like, how do you go from being a possible Secretary of State to being the Vice President to being the President? Yeah. If you had told me the idea for the show, I would be like, whoa, slow down. That's like the 5th or 6th season. But shows recently have really been smart at how fast they go, because we live in a very fast-paced society. Homeland does that.
Oh, really? I haven't gotten into that.
Where they, you're 3 episodes in it and you feel like you've watched 4 seasons.
Wow.
And you're like, wait, they can't do that in this episode. That should happen like 6 years later. What are they doing?
Wow.
Same thing happens with all 3 of these shows, actually.
Yeah, that is true. And with House of Cards, the other thing that they add in is the relationship between, Claire, his wife, and
Lady
Frank.
Macbeth.
Yeah. And so, but you're seeing this and you're seeing how they feed off of each other and how they need each other. And then once we start getting into the 3rd season, that relationship starts taking, I mean, it makes me wonder if the writers are saying like, this has been the solid, this has been the rock of the whole show. It doesn't matter where they're at, whether they're, whether he's Secretary of State and she's the head of a nonprofit organization, or he's president and she's First Lady. This has been the constant throughout the whole thing. So now how are they going to start to break things up? How are they going to start to change things? And now that's what they're doing, in the 3rd season, is they're testing the dynamic of their relationship. And that's why that guy's writing that book. I mean, it is a complete device. There's no reason for the author to be in this movie at all.
Oh, yeah. You mean in the show? Yeah, you're talking about
in
the one
show.
who's
I
writing.
called it a movie.
Yeah, there you go.
You're
talking about the one that's writing the biography.
Tom, whatever his name is.
Yeah, of.
Well, he's not supposed to write a biography. He was supposed to write about America Works, the
right.
jobs program.
That's right.
And then he turns it into a biography, because how do you get The only way either Frank talks to the audience or he talks to his wife. How can he talk about his wife without having to just like talk to the audience? Because that would get really tired really quickly if he's just complaining about his wife to the audience.
Oh, you mean like once they're set up as in their antagonist-protagonist relationship that you never see coming, that's right there in front of you the whole entire time in the third season, and it smacks you?
Yeah.
You mean that relationship?
Yeah. But I mean, I feel like that device is necessary to give the viewer. It just started to show itself over the last, like, I started to figure out, like, why is this guy even here? I mean, I
never thought twice about it, but I guess you're right. It is some form of a vehicle device to get
it's exposition.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, it is. But
I
have no
it doesn't
problem
matter.
with things
That-
being explained
also,
to me, though.
That
I like
actor,
it.
That actor, he is one of those guys. Who was it that we were talking about that was just, the kid in Zero Theorem. I'm starting to formulate my own kind of theorem that there are certain actors that transcend some sort of a thing. Like, they're not an actor.
Nope.
Like, so this guy who plays the author, he is not an actor in that role. That kid who played in Zero Theorem, he's not an actor. They just kind of became that, and it's probably harder for me to think that way with famous actors because I see them in multiple things, and they also have to stretch themselves to do whatever they're doing. But in those roles, I mean, if you get a subtle enough role, or I mean, I don't know, they weren't even that subtle. His role was subtle in House of Cards, but there was something about him. I mean, he just seemed different than everybody else in that show.
It's an intangible. I don't even know how to describe it. It is whatever it is. He has it.
Yeah,
as soon as he takes the screen, you're like, there could be a whole 200-person scene, and your eyes would go right to him even before he said anything. Yeah. There's just something about.
It's so naturalistic. It's like the way he delivers his dialogue. Right. It's not delivering dialogue.
It's a believable person could just walk right off the screen and you wouldn't have it. And how do they continuously get away with the subtext that's there the whole entire time, and you're feeling it and you're sensing it and you think you're kind of crazy, and then all of a sudden it happens and you're like, I was sensing that the whole entire time. Mm-hmm. Especially the relationship between the writer and Frank Underwood closer to the end. There's this tension between them. And you're like, what is that? And because of complete spoilers all over the place.
Yeah, no. We've already kind of. He's the president. So if you haven't seen the show,
then
you're kind of ruined. I guess, but.
Well, you kind of are. But is it the second season where he has the sexual? Yeah, he has a sexual relationship. He has a threesome with his wife and his bodyguard. Basically, I saw that coming. Everybody thought I was crazy. I said, there's something weird going on with that bodyguard right there, or secret servant. I think he's in love with him, and everybody's like, oh, you're crazy. That's weird.
Wait, you think Meacham's in love with?
Absolutely.
Okay, and you can tell in the third season because of how protective he is.
Absolutely. And I think that when they finally get to that odd sexual moment, and it's only odd because of the position that they're in. I mean, who cares who sleeps with who, in my opinion? I don't care if you sleep with 4 people one time. I don't care. But it's because he's
logistically, that might be difficult. I don't know.
I'm sure there's people who've tried.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a bunch of people who are like, no, I don't like it till you try it. But the fact that he is an agent of this guy, he's to protect. Is he vice president at the time? He's vice president at the time.
He was vice president.
Yeah. Right. And then to bring in your wife, and then to see the vice president kissing another man, and then kissing his wife, and then
the wife kissing the other.
Yeah.
Man. So I guess
my point to all that is not to interrupt.
Sorry, finish.
No, my point is that all that subtext is there from day one, and you're feeling it and you're sensing it. And I don't know how they get it into it because it was there for the writer. And I even said it to somebody. I said, I think that he's going to have an affair with the writer. And everybody said, what is with you and all these subtext and all this weird stuff with sexual? And sure enough, other than Frank Underwood thinking for a split second, he reaches out and touches his hand, and there's an underlying sexual theme going on this whole entire time, and I knew it. And I was like, wait, but it's not that I knew it, that was the important part. It's that how did the writers write all that stuff in there, and you're sensing it, you're getting it on some kind of even subconscious level, and then it appears, and then you're like, oh, it was there the whole entire time. How do they write that in?
Well, but are you expecting a payoff? Because like I'm
No.
guessing that when it was way earlier in the season, the writer is up in their chambers in the White House, and it's the writer and Kevin Spacey, and they're having drinks, and then Claire comes out,
Yeah,
and
she's like, I don't like
she's
him.
like, hey, just get him out of here. And because it was late and all that stuff, were you sensing tension there too? Because I mean, it can just be
No.
two guys having a drink. It doesn't have to be a sexual tension-filled drink.
Absolutely, and it wasn't, and I don't think it was there, but I
Yeah.
think from the moment they laid eyes on each other, there was something there. And I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe it's just, the way my brain thinks. I have no idea why I'm sensing this. And then when I mentioned it to somebody, they were like halfway through, like I was halfway through, they were like, no way, they've already done that, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, there's something up with them. And then when it happens, I had kind of forgotten about my sense about it. And I sat up in bed and I was like, I knew it. But my question / compliment is the writers have written it so brilliantly up to that point that it's there the whole entire time. And I'm not even saying that Claire is saying, I want him out of here because I feel tension between you two, because obviously Claire is fine with her husband sleeping with a guy because they did it together.
Sure.
But
She's worried about the risk.
Yeah, she's concerned about, his
Sharing too much.
too much, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
he has a weakness when it comes to sharing too much about himself. So that's where she's coming from in that scene. But my question / compliment is, how do the writers interject that? And then it's there, and you're like, no, it's not that. Yeah, it is there. It's fascinating. That's why I think it's so well written.
Yeah, and also, I mean, nowadays they've got 13 episodes instead of 22 episodes. I mean, that's you've got to think, if you've got a writer's room and they're only responsible for 13-hour-long episodes versus 22, I mean, they're going to be able to craft those a little bit better. And they're, people expect less as far as like the sheer amount of television now, because somebody's going to sit down and watch 13 hours of it all in a row.
Yeah.
And they're not going to care whether it's 13 or 12 or 15 or 18. So now that you've got a smaller palette, not smaller palette, now that you've got a smaller canvas to work with, you can really pay
Hone
more
things
attention
and- yeah.
to each of the things in there. So, but I guess my big question is, did somebody actually, maybe I was reading a review about how somebody was talking about how somebody going to, how is somebody who's a closeted president going to win re-election? And I don't think that's, I mean, he's
What?
not.
You don't think that there's a lot of, didn't we have one that wore a dress and didn't one sleep with Marilyn Monroe and nobody knew about
Well,
it?
I think you're talking about J. Edgar Hoover.
Well, whoever.
He was
are
the
you
FBI,
kidding me?
yeah. But that's well, okay. But what I'm saying is that but I don't think he's necessarily a closeted homosexual. I think
No.
he uses sex for what he needs it for, or for manipulation, like he did with the reporter.
I think people of absolute power like that do not see the lines of sexuality.
He's like transcended
there's-
gender.
Yeah, I know. Well, because there are no lines. Look what he did in the very first episode. I mean, there is no line drawn in the sand for him. He is not defined by his gender or sexuality. That is not the point. The point is that I don't think that he has to worry about re-election, because the only people who know about it is him, the guy, and his wife.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that his wife could ruin him. Obviously.
Yeah, the whole point of the last.
That's the last.
He could ruin her really deeply, badly.
Yeah.
And to the point where he could, so she starts a rumor, big deal, prove it. There's no way that guy, Meacham is his name, he'll go to his deathbed with that.
yeah.
He'll go to a firing squad with that secret.
But you could say that this isn't the first time, possibly. Maybe when he was in South Carolina or something.
So what? Barack Obama smoked pot, and there's
Yeah.
pictures of him, and they made him look all green on 420, and he's still the president. So what? He had a little fling with a guy back in college. He was experimenting, finger quotes. Who cares? Nobody. I don't think that that's as much of a plot device stopper, if you will. I don't think that
for the show.
For the show. Yeah. In real life, who knows? I mean,
yeah, it'd be tough in real life.
There's
I think
rumors that
are,
Hillary Clinton is a lesbian. So who knows? I mean, there's rumors about everybody.
I'm
Everybody's
sure there's rumors. Sure.
Yeah, everybody's sleeping with everybody. So I think it's an interesting device for the show, House of Cards, in the fact that
how do you ratchet it up? You know?
Well, not only that, which they seem to be able to do, because the way they ended it, I was like, what? I was like, what is happening here? But I think it's allowing the audience to know what's at stake when the rest of the world in that world of House of Cards have no idea. They wouldn't even suspect.
You're kind of behind the curtain.
Yeah, this guy would do anything like that. No, but he doesn't have a freak flag. He just doesn't, if quote unquote that's what you want to call it. He doesn't have it. Once again, my fascination with it is how it's written and how it's in there subtextually. I find it infinitely fascinating.
Definitely. Yeah. All right. Well, that sounds like a good
Can we just take 2 or 3 seconds? Sorry.
Sure.
I know we just rambled on about our own misunderstandings or trying to understand about this show, even though, we love it. I just want to take a few seconds to talk about Kevin Spacey and Robin Wright.
Sure.
Because they are so intensely great. I don't even know what the words are, especially her. I think she should have won the Emmy all 3 years, including this year coming up. She didn't win it. I think she won the Golden Globe, but she didn't win the Emmy. There was some weird stuff about her. She should have been in the supporting actress category in the first season, which is kind of technically true. And she is a supporting character, although she's the lead female. But the mesmerizing control that they both have as actors is it's laser beam tight. I don't understand how they get to the places they get to, but they get to it. And where they go and how they go, it's all based on the writing, but still, I think she's had an interesting career, and she's never really become a huge star, even though she's been in some huge movies. But if you had shown a picture of her 5 years ago, would anybody be able to say that was Robin Wright Penn at the time? I think, I would have, you would have, but does anybody really know? Oh, that's Jenny, is what they would say from Forrest Gump, or that's the Princess Bride, but they wouldn't know who she was. And she's had a very interesting career, but there is really superb acting chops. And then there's Robin Wright and Kevin Spacey. I don't understand it. And didn't we talk about breaking the fourth wall in a serious connotation? Maybe this is our example that it does work.
It does.
Because he does seriously turn to the camera a couple times and be like, are you kidding me? I'm going to mess that person up. Yeah. And you're like, as an audience member, don't talk to me now. Don't talk to me now.
And that seems like in the third season, pretty much how he does it the whole time.
Right.
I mean, that's how he's addressing the camera is, his frustrations. He's taking out his frustrations, talking to the camera. Whereas in the previous seasons, it was more like,
it's almost
hey,
cutesy.
I'm gonna bring you in.
Yeah.
Hey,
Look what happened. He did exactly to us what he does to everybody else in the show.
He's like, I don't need you.
Yeah. And you believe every split second. And then when he turns, you're like, what? You're turning on me? I'm the audience. You have to have me. No, I don't. I'm Frank Underwood. I'm going to mess you up. Get out of my way. I just want to take a brief second to say, not only is it an extremely well-written show, but without those two leads, I don't know if they could have pulled off breaking the fourth wall without somebody like Kevin Spacey's personality.
Yeah, that's true.
Because he does it in American Beauty. He has a knack for that. And I don't know if I can't think of anybody else playing that role right now. And that to me is...
He does it in American Beauty?
Well, he doesn't break the
He's
fourth...
the narrator, though.
He's the narrator.
Yeah,
he doesn't
good.
break the fourth wall, but he does speak to you as if he knows you're there.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good.
So just a couple brief seconds about how amazing they are.
And Kim Dickens, too, just another...
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Gone Girl. And she's in another show, too. She's in like a CSI show or something. I don't know. Or a Law and Order show. I don't know. But
yeah, it's When I Take Off. And I told you she was in the last season of Sons of Anarchy. And she was in Dogwood. That's where she's from. Remember I kept saying I don't know where she's from.
She is in Dogwood. Yeah. She was the lady in the brothel.
Yeah.
I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is similar to the character she plays in Sons of Anarchy, but does it differently. Yeah. Very talented.
It's great. When I saw her, I was like, oh, you're kidding me.
Once again, here she is.
That's right. All right. Well, let's talk about True Detective next. And this show, I did, like I said earlier, I watched it last year when it came out, week to week. So I didn't, because I had to, I had access to the HBO Go. And I had to watch it every week. I could not wait to like binge it. It was, it was kind of like appointment television. And then I recently rewatched the last episode. Last night actually, I rewatched the last episode.
Yeah, I'm too into it right now to watch it again. I mean, meaning
But
I'm
you
too
just
close.
watched it,
yeah,
though.
like a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what did you think?
I don't even know where to begin with this because everybody says, my buddy Eric said this is up there with Sopranos and some of the best TV of all time. And, they're setting me up. It can't be. And the first episode's really well done. Mm-hmm. But about 45 minutes into it, I was like, or 30 minutes into it, I was like, wait, I hope I didn't have too much of an expectation because I'm not feeling this. I mean, I think it's good.
Like it's CSI.
It's good. It's good. It's got some interesting things. And then he does a few of his philosophies. And I was like, wait, what? And then I realized that wasn't Matthew McConaughey, which we've talked about. It was whoever inhabited his body for this movie, this
Once
TV
again,
show.
Yeah.
And I thought Woody Harrelson was typecast, and, he is to a degree, but the final sequence and the final scene of him in the hospital takes all of that and washes it all the way. I mean, oh my God. He does that to me every time. Every time I underestimate him, then he smacks me
You just
around.
think he's a pothead, right?
Well, I just think he's Woody Harrelson. I just think, he's doing the same thing he's done a million times before, and then he twists it in a new and different way. And he has such soul and such integrity and such depth to him that you go, I did it again. I underestimated you again, and you smacked me around again. The thing about True Detectives that got me was, once again, the writing. I mean, it's brilliantly acted. There's no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. It's horrific in nature. It's, you see nothing, but you see it all. You see nothing.
Yeah, not really. Yeah,
but your mind places you into dark places you do not want to go, obviously, because that's where they're trying to take you. Mm-hmm. And all through the writing and all through the acting, you see things that are never really there because it's so well done. My thing is, I don't know. What'd you think? Tell me a little bit from your point of view.
Well, I think it's unique in that it is a singular vision. I think this is most like a movie of all the things that we're talking about, of all the shows that we're talking about. Because, I mean, from an auteur standpoint, you've got a singular writer, you've got a singular director, and it all happened at once. They all shot it at once, and it's driven forward by the two main characters. Those actors were also producers on it, so they had more of a handle on things, and so they probably, were able to get things done in a different way than a regular show would have done. They're also, movie actors that are, slumming it for TV, but it's just not. I mean, it's kind of like we talked about Behind the Candelabra last week. I mean, it's not slumming it. I mean,
well, there is none of those lines are stern anymore. You can be a TV star and be a movie star. You could be a movie star and do TV. Kathy Bates is doing American Horror Story. She has an Oscar. Jessica Lange has 2 Oscars, and she's doing the show. So
but that started. I mean, that started what's now happening in multiple arenas. You've got Fargo came out later on in the year, which was another 8-episode. Microcosm of a story that
one director, one writer.
No, that was a little bit different.
See, I didn't know that about True Detectives.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that with True Detective, it's like, these are 8 episodes. These are your characters. This is your story. We're gonna do True Detective next year. It's gonna be different characters. Now, there's probably gonna be some sort of a through line. Somehow, a cousin of a brother is gonna be involved or something. But it's not gonna be. It's gonna be tangential, at best. So what they're doing is they're setting you up for get invested in these guys, and this is it. You don't have to worry about us getting canceled because this is it. Like Deadwood, you talked about earlier.
Yeah.
That thing went 3 seasons. I'm about 3/4 of the way through the first season, and I'm kind of dreading watching it because I like it, but I know it's not going to end in a good way. Like, it's just, they got the rug pulled out from under them,
They do okay.
And so
Carnival.
Well, that must have been another one too. I mean, a lot of these are HBO shows and stuff like that, but you don't know when you're going to get canceled or whatever. You don't know what's going to happen, and so the writers have to deal with that, and you know, it becomes difficult. But with this show, it's like you knew that they had, you know, they had this all locked in, and this is what was happening. So I think
It's
that was
interesting
unique.
how your mind thinks, because I don't even think that way. And it didn't even dawn on me that.
It made me expect more out of it, actually,
Interesting.
because
Yeah, I just didn't even.
because we don't have to do a you know, they don't have to do a, you know, cliffhanger type thing. Come, make sure you watch next year. Make sure you know, write in and make sure they renew us for next year. It wasn't any of that stuff. It was no, like, the business wasn't involved.
So do you think that when they write a show like The Sopranos or they write a show like 6 Feet Under, they're aware that there's a third and fourth season coming, so they wait to do things for the third or fourth season, or they wait to do plot lines?
Yeah, I mean, they knew. Vince Gilligan made a decision. I mean, I wasn't the only one, I'm sure, but he made a decision at the beginning of the fourth season. Him and AMC said
Of Breaking
there will
Bad.
be, of Breaking Bad. There will be a fourth season and a fifth season, and that is it.
Yeah, but isn't that.
But the reason why he did that is so that so that he wasn't being strung along by ABC, and so that AMC, and so that, you know, the viewers kind of knew, like, we will finish this, you know, and there will be a period at the end of this show, and it will be defined, as opposed to, you know, I don't know. There's a bunch of other examples of shows that got canceled or whatever, you know, like Alias, for example. Like, I was very invested in Alias, and that went, I think, 6 seasons, and they found out halfway through the 6th season that they were going to be canceled, and I don't even think they made all their shows. So they had to, like, quickly, like, scramble to, like, get people back and, like, you know, make things happen and change plot lines. And, like, they were obviously going one direction at the beginning of season 6, and they had to completely jettison that and move a total different way to end it so they could end the series in some sort of a decent way.
Interesting.
And so I knew going into True Detective this was not going to happen. And it was all about the art and all about the, you know, what they wanted to show me. And so that made me expect a lot. And so throughout the whole show, I was interested in the mythology that they were bringing into it, the Carcosa and the Yellow King.
Lovecraft. Isn't that all? My buddy Eric was telling me it's all
okay.
based on that.
Yeah, I think it's based on a bunch of different stories, but because Carcosa has been brought up in a bunch of different stories, it's kind of a writer's device, I guess. But
I'm literally trying to block it back out of my head. Because
Yeah.
when you say it, I hear the way he
and
says
that
it.
last episode,
It's horrifying.
that last episode is kind of a weird
Horrifying.
anomaly compared to the rest of the show. But yes, I loved the show. I loved the acting, and I thought that it made people talk about things they didn't normally talk about. I mean, you got this guy who's an extreme nihilist. I mean, he's not an atheist. He's not an agnostic. He is a nihilist. He believes in nothing.
Crazy.
And that's not been shown on TV. I don't know ever. I don't
And
know if
it
it has
adds
ever.
to his final scene so deeply.
A
It's
lot of
so-
people felt, I think, that
They're wrong.
that they were, because his final scene is kind of an about face, you know, and I felt like that it infuses his life with meaning, whereas other people are like, wow, come on,
I'm shaking my
it's a
head.
cop out.
It is not. He is one big question mark after he never really makes statements. He only tells things factually, and at the end of the fact, it has a question mark. He, the writer, and Matthew McConaughey's character leaves you with a question mark. It leaves you up to believe what you want to believe based on whatever you believe in this world. So I think that's brilliant, because the one or two things I want. Are you good?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I guess I just wanted to. I've got a couple of things written down here. Number one is that he goes from. I mean, everybody has kind of made fun of the whole time as a flat circle thing, but like,
What?
if you listen?
It blew
to
my
it,
mind.
If you listen to it,
It blew my mind.
Yeah, it's something that you can really think about. you
Where
know?
are you going with all of this cynical
Negativity,
people
cynical.
who?
No, like I mean, just looking online, you know, people do like memes or something. It's like they make fun of you know, like Saturday Night Live, for example. Jim Carrey plays Matthew McConaughey doing a Lincoln commercial, and he's like driving the Lincoln. Is like, Tom's a flat circle. I mean, he's kind of like sending up that.
I think it's
thing.
because it touched on such a cellular space in our bodies and our souls that people have to make fun of it, because if they don't, then they have to be faced with the reality of that concept alone in general is mind-blowing. People are so cynical.
So this character starts off with time as a flat circle. And then, I mean, the other line that I've written down here from earlier on in the show is, I think human consciousness is a tragic misstep in evolution.
Yeah, I love it.
Like,
That's where I sat up and went,
that
wait, what?
is a meaty sentence.
Yes, it is. And he's right if you
And
think
he
about
moves
it.
forward and starts to explain a little
Yeah.
bit about, what he's talking about.
We
And
are by nature unnatural.
we shouldn't know what we know,
Exactly.
because dogs don't know what they know and cats
Right.
don't know what,
And those two concepts alone are the two concepts I wanted to bring up. So I'm glad you did bring them up. And the fact that somebody wrote it and the fact that we can all on some kind of level relate to it, I think it reaches deep down inside us. And that's what makes us have to make fun of it, because we're afraid of it, because there's a reality there that makes us face something.
But
Go ahead.
you can look at that in different ways. I mean, he's looking at it from a like perverse, he's not perverse. I'm just saying, like, it's a perversion of nature.
Right.
We are a perversion of nature, because he's come to that from, he's looking for an explanation of why his child died and why his wife left him. That's what he's looking for.
And everything else that he's done as a detective up to this point
And
has
he
made him
sees-
think and see things this way.
He's gone past cynicism and gone to just it's worthless. The world is worthless. But for some reason, there's something that keeps him going. He had the ability to leave and take his pension and go retire, except he wanted to get reassigned somewhere. So they sent him to Louisiana, and that's why he's there.
It's Hamlet. Hamlet says it in the To Be or Not to Be speech, where he says, taking my own life with a bare bodkin, which is a knife. I would do that if I wasn't in fear of the undiscovered country, of not knowing what's on the other side. And Matthew McConaughey says, I don't have the constitution to do that myself, to take my own life. So he's given up on everything, but he doesn't have the constitution to say, I'm going to end it all, because it's just not in his nature or whatever. So he uses these philosophies to justify his manners and his the way that he works. I find it fascinating.
Yeah, but then he moves on. That character moves on, and I mean, the last line of the show is talking about how the sky, like he's talking about the sky at night, and how he's relating it to light versus dark. It's a struggle of light versus dark. And then Woody Harrelson looks at the sky and says, like, there's a lot of black up there. Like saying, like, the stars are the light and the darkness is the black. And and Woody Harrelson says there's a lot of black. And then Matthew McConaughey says, but there used to be all black. So the way I see it, the light is winning. So, I mean, and that shows you kind of like an about face. It shows you him a seeking. He's gone from nihilism to, he now has interest in life and in trying to seek out a meaning. He probably doesn't have it all figured out or anything like that, but feeling his daughter's presence, feeling his father's presence while he was in that coma, he feels something else. He realizes that there's something that's outside of himself, and he wants to investigate that.
Just the fact that he felt it alone,
Exactly.
whether or not he really did experience it or not, or that he's going down a path of trying to believe something, it's not relevant. It's the fact that he experienced something that he was sure did not exist.
And you can't be a nihilist. You can't believe in nothing if there is something
Or
out there that you've experienced that you can't refuse.
even if it's just some kind of like chemical reaction to being in a coma, it doesn't matter. It shook him so to the core that he had to question everything again, because he was so sure of everything up to that point.
He had an answer for everything.
Everything.
Yep.
Everything.
And now he's got to reevaluate it all.
Let's go back to the circle thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's what, it's so funny to me that people are making fun of it, because I think it goes back to what I've said twice already. People are afraid of concepts that are so deep that they can't wrap their minds around it, no pun intended, that I think there's so much truth in it that people are like, oh yeah, it's so deep, it's such a concept, let's make fun of it, because they don't want to face that fact. Because if that is a true concept, for some people, that really sucks. And basically the concept is that time is a circle, and that everything that is happening now will happen again over and over and over again. And for Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson's character, it's all about what happened to those poor children in that situation, and that's going to happen to them over and over and over again. It's horrifying. It's absolutely horrifying. I sat up in bed, put on pause, and went, wait, I get to do this again? I get to go to my first U2 show again. I started thinking of all the things that I got to do for the first time that I get to do again. Now, there's a bunch of things in there that I don't want to have to do again. But if that means getting to do all this other stuff, and I was like, I think I love my life. You know, I know that's, happy-go-lucky is not normally my disposition. I'm pretty realistic, not pessimistic or optimistic, but I'm pretty realistic. And so, but I don't sway either way. But that made me go, okay, well, this is the deck that I've been dealt. I'm good with it. Let's turn it in a circle, because this is a pretty good life.
Yeah.
For them and the characters in the movie, not so good.
Definitely.
Not so good.
Well, and the other thing about these two characters is you see, and you see this a lot in other movies or other TV shows and stuff too, is that you've got the character who from the outside looks like he's completely just a mess of a person. I mean, you look at Rust Cole's apartment, the Matthew McConaughey character's apartment, and he doesn't have anything in there, and he's got like stuff all over the place. He's got serial killer books all over the place. And then you see Woody Harrelson's character, who has a wife, kids, house, job, all this stuff. And when you look at those two characters, once you start learning about those two characters, you can tell that the Woody Harrelson character is flawed and is weak and he just can't handle his life. I mean, from outside you look at it and he's like, oh, he's got it all figured out, but he doesn't have anything figured out.
Not at all.
And he's ruining his marriage, and he's hurting his wife emotionally, physically. I mean, he can't deal with his daughters. I mean, he's all over the place. And he ultimately pays for that, where his wife leaves him, but before his wife leaves him, she baits Matthew McConaughey into cheating.
And then tells him why.
Exactly.
And then tells him she's been manipulating from the moment she walked in the door, so he will sleep with her, so Woody Harrelson will leave her.
Yeah. And
he'll be able to walk away now, is what she says.
But Rust also knows that he's making a decision too. I mean, he's not naive enough to be like, oh, this is just gonna. I mean, I think he knows that he's making a decision too. But at the same time, he says it in the last episode too. He talks about it. He's like, well, it's kind of like his version of It Takes Two to Tango. But he's like, kind of like, well, I mean, I knew he probably didn't know she was manipulating him to that extent, but he could tell that she was needy and he was willing to do what she wanted to do. By the way, that scene. There's a few scenes in this show that are just shot so beautifully, and I mean, it's not a beauty that's like, oh, look at this landscape. It's
right.
A beauty that's just this, especially that sex scene is it's gritty, and the angles and choices that you never really see. It's not like this big, huge, wide shot and look how amazing or palatial this is. It's like an angle of her side or something, or, like whatever, her calf, or, I mean, it's just weird, interstitial pieces that you can kind of feel the grittiness and the desperation really that's in that situation. And it's one of those where I couldn't imagine that being shot any differently. And the other shot that I wanted to talk about was that the continuous shot that they did when he was he was undercover. He had been undercover, and he knew this guy who was a it was a Ginger. I think he was just, his name was Ginger, or people called him Ginger because he had red hair. Yeah, and so he took him to this kind of like tenement building, or not, it's like multiple buildings, and they were, got into a firefight and got moved around, and he had to drag this guy around and had to shoot a bunch of people and beat people up, and just, I mean, I don't even know if I think he shot a couple people, but he was all over the place, and he was also coordinating to have Woody Harrelson meet him, and it was like 5 minutes long, the whole thing, and it was inside and outside and up and over a fence. I mean, that kind of stuff. It's just, with those shots, it's like you don't notice until you're like a couple minutes in, and you're like, wait a second, this is all still happening, and there's no cuts. And then once, I mean, I had realized that, and then I see that camera go up and over the fence. I'm just like, you are kidding me. It's
There's a
cool
whole
stuff
making
like
of that scene
Oh, really?
in one
Okay.
of the extras.
Oh, yeah, I didn't get the DVDs or anything.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so there's just a couple other shots in there. I mean, the last episode has very kind of haunting things.
See, I've
in
always
there.
wanted to own a haunted house so I can scare the hell out of people because I'm such a jumpy person myself that I come up with these really twisted ways of scaring people that you wouldn't traditionally, you just don't jump out and say boo. I've had some really weird twisted thoughts on how to really scare people, especially that jerk who's like, this ain't scary. This ain't scary. That guy I target. And I get inspiration from a lot of different things, like a couple of the Rob Zombie movies.
Oh,
the
yeah,
way
I've
that Lords of
Salem?
yes, the way that movie looks that's what's in my head when it comes to the stylistic choices I would make for the haunted house. I'll give you a really quick example. You walk up to buy a ticket for a haunted house, and it's like some lady, middle-aged lady taking your ticket. It's $25, blah, blah, blah. I want it all conceptualized from the very beginning. And the people behind the ticket booth will not have mouths. Their mouths will literally be sewn shut,
Oh,
or at
geez.
least it will look like that.
Sure.
And so you cannot speak to them. They cannot speak to you. And if you need to directly speak to them, they just press a button, and it's a recorded message that says something to the effect of, we don't speak to the meat, and you're now just meat. But it'll be an evil voice, so forth and so on. I have all these really weird, twisted things that I think this will scare the hell out of people. And then I saw True Detectives, and I thought, I'm inspired to want to steal from that to scare other people, but it's almost so frightening in True Detectives. I don't want to be around that. Like if I won the lottery and I could just spend my days doing whatever I wanted, and Halloween comes around, or because depending on where you would do your haunted house, you could do it all year long if it was at Virginia Beach or
Oh, yeah, if you
Sandbridge.
had a lot of people coming
Yeah.
through it.
And there's those places in all of those touristy areas, so you could do it all year long. Anyway, I'm thinking to myself, standing in the middle of the night in that cave that they have to go through, that
Yeah.
they've inspired me to steal from for my haunted house. I don't know if I could do it. So I literally probably would freak myself out so much that I would be like, okay, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna, because the Yellow King guy was freaky.
Well, and that last episode is an anomaly
horrifying.
because the way that it starts is on him, and he talks to his dad in a certain way, and then he goes in and interacts with his half sister or whatever she is. Well, but first he stands there and watches I don't know if it's charade or what it is, but it's a Cary Grant movie, and
Oh yeah.
and he starts speaking British, like in a British accent,
Yeah.
like a pretty good British accent.
Yeah.
And then he speaks with his half sister in that British accent, and then he switches to another accent, and then he does a really weird accent, the weird like. I don't
Where's
even want
that
to do
guy's
it.
Emmy nominations? Like when you see him on the mower at the beginning,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
there's something instinctual. See, that's what I'm talking about with these writers. They interject things, and of course that's a foreshadowing, even though you don't have a clue that's what it is.
Yep.
But there's something on some kind of level where your mind or your subconscious level is going, wait.
Go back and talk to that guy.
What is that guy's deal? Like, why is he still mowing the same patch of grass you see him later on mowing? Why is he out mowing this? This is nothing. It's an old, baseball field or something? Like, why is the grass that high and he's mowing it? Makes no sense. He's watching out. He's watching out for people. He's literally set himself up to watch out for people.
Okay.
So, but then you don't,
yeah.
you don't realize it until later on. Anyway, it's, you were talking about his accents.
It's creepy. It's just, but
There's
both
not
of
even
those
a
actors
word
are-
for it.
Yeah, there's not a word. Well, it's debauched, maybe. I don't know. But see, is he all there? I don't know if he's all there. I mean, it seems like he is definitely more all there than his half sister is. She is mentally handicapped in some way, I think, probably due to incest and all of that. But I mean, due to like she was probably born of inbreeding or something. I don't know, but anyway, so that episode to me, the other thing that about that episode is that they solve in quotes the mystery very quickly compared to what they've gone through the last few episodes. But I mean, that's kind of like, well, okay, guys,
that didn't bother me.
But other than that, I mean, really, the way that they went about it, and I think people were expecting more. Some people were expecting more supernatural, or like I was kind of hoping for me personally. I was hoping for more of a tie-in with the Carcosa Yellow King thing. Explain it to me, give me the mythology of it. Let's work on this and let's flesh it out.
That's what a lot of people think season 2 is going to be about, because you have all those guys who were in that video. They're going to explore what those people's lives was about. That's how they think it's going to be interconnected.
I see.
Well, that's
but that would be like in the past then.
Well, I don't know,
because the trailer has like flak jackets that look like they're from like this year, or something.
I have no idea. And none of that bothered me, because I don't think it was about that. It was about the fact that you see all of these criminals throughout the show. They're on, including Ginger, that guy, and then all the bikers, and all of the gun runners and so forth and so on. You see all this level of crime, and then you have that guy. There's a whole level of, I don't even know what the word is. It's not insanity. I guess that's pure evil.
Yeah.
If there's evil in this world, that guy is.
He is it.
Evil. There's no psychological reason why he is the way that he is. They don't give you a backstory to him.
He's not getting back at anybody.
Yeah, he wasn't molested when he was a child, although he probably was. I think he's just straight up evil. There's good and there's bad, and then there's in between. This guy is just
all the way.
All the way. Absolutely.
He's all in on evil.
Absolutely. No doubt. And I think it was a level of crime that they were trying to show you. And I think that's why them wrapping it up so quickly was important, because you're spending so much time getting there that if you had spent more time unraveling it at the last episode, it's not a payoff per se, because they're going to figure it out, because they're talking about it at the beginning of the show that they figured it out. That's why it's not that important to me how quick they wrap it up, because you already know they've figured it out. Or have they? They kind of leave that open 3 or 4 episodes into it. They're like, why are you asking? Because they're investigating another group of detectives is investigating a crime that could not have possibly happened if they had solved the crime that they thought that they had happened.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there are two things merging together here. So them wrapping it up quickly didn't bother me a bit. I was kind of glad it was.
Also, like you said, I mean, since this guy is completely evil, there's no reason to learn any more about him than we absolutely have to.
We saw enough.
Yeah.
Welcome to. No.
Yep. All right. Well, okay. Well, I'm excited to see what they're going to do with the second season, and which that's going to come out in a couple months, I think. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting how they hold up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm rooting for it.
It's unfair.
It's
unfair. They set the bar so high. You can almost go into it. Sorry to interrupt. You can almost go into it knowing you're going to be let down a little bit.
Yeah,
it's impossible to do what they did again, and if they do, I think I might lose some brain cells because my mind will be blown.
Well, and I know they're using different directors this time, and I don't know about the writer. I don't know if he's writing all of the episodes or if he has a writer's room or how that all works. But
do you know if it's always been planned to be more than just one season?
I do not know.
I think they should have done one season, got in, got out, done.
Boom.
Done.
Yep.
Because it is as if it's 8 years long.
But I think HBO is looking at it and saying, like, you can't not do this.
That's the brilliance in just doing that.
Yeah, I know.
That's the brilliance in just
doing that. Well, that's what they do over in England. I mean, they
do.
Just like, boom.
Yeah, they do.
Get out.
First season, done.
Yep.
We said it. We told you the
1
story.
or 2 seasons or whatever, and then that's it.
Yep.
Okay, so speaking of over in Britain, it's not Britain, but this next show is called The Fall. It was set in Scotland. Is that right? Set in Belfast.
Yes,
which is
Belfast.
Ireland.
Yes, I was gonna say, wait, what? Yeah,
I'm gonna
'Cause-
double check. I think
No,
it's
you're right.
It's got to be Ireland.
It is Ireland. It
Okay.
is Belfast, because as soon as you find out, because she's told you got to carry a gun. This is Belfast, and as soon as you know you're in Belfast, you're in Northern Ireland. You know,
That's where U2's from, right?
well, they're from
Or Dublin, okay.
yeah, which is kind of middle.
Okay, Dublin's on the island, and Northern Ireland is part of. Is that right? I gotta look it up. But
Yeah,
that's
look
fine.
it up, because don't get me.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
can't even say Milos Forman or lip sync, in sync.
Now the fall is something that I heard about it. Did you hear about it from me or from
Yeah,
somebody
from
else?
you.
Okay. I heard about it from another person, from somebody at work, and they turned me on to it, and yeah, it is another show about focusing on someone who is, not the norm, not doesn't fit into society, although he's doing all these kinds of he's sexually assaulting these women and killing these women, but he's also living a completely normal life. Whereas most of the time when we see a serial killer, we see somebody who's like, whatever,
Sewing a
Jeffrey
body
Dahmer
together in their basement.
Yeah, keeping things in his freezer. Somebody who doesn't fit into society.
Right.
And I guess every once in a while there's somebody who is able to do both. I don't know much about serial killers, but
Well, the fact that the duality exists is what was the interesting thing to me.
yeah.
The fact that he is so
How can he go home
Yeah.
to his daughter and then go out and, kill this woman?
and hide evidence in
In
his
her room.
daughter's room. Smart, actually, if you think about it.
Well, maybe that's what he was just being
Yeah.
pragmatic. Like,
Yeah.
nobody would ever look in here.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm gonna look at
Belfast is Northern Ireland, and Dublin is the middle, kind of Central Ireland. And Belfast has a big IRA,
Got it.
Irish
Okay.
Republic Army issue, because when Ireland separated from England, they didn't do it so well, and so the IRA got together and said, we don't want this, and they took to using this is very basic.
Mm-hmm.
They took to tactics by bombing and gunning down people, and militaristic terroristic stuff.
Okay, got it. I think this is what so Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom and Ireland is its own country. So Belfast is in Northern Ireland, which is part of the United Kingdom, and that's why
They have an issue.
that's also why the Gillian Anderson character went to Belfast from Scotland Yard or wherever she was from London, I think.
Right.
'Cause she has a British accent, not
Right.
an Irish accent. But she's American.
Yes, but you told me originally she was British, and I was like, wait.
could have swore she
I
was.
know, right? I know.
Because usually British people can come over here and speak American,
Not a
speak
problem.
American all day,
Mark.
and nobody's worse to wear. But very rarely has somebody done an American done a British accent.
No, it happens all the time. We just don't realize it. Yeah,
okay,
Gwyneth
maybe.
Paltrow in Shakespeare in Love. Renee Zellweger in
Oh, Bridget Jones' Diary.
yeah, Bridget Jones's Diary. It happens all the time. It's just when it doesn't happen very well, it sticks out.
Yeah,
and
that's
there's a lot of people who've tried British accents and it just doesn't work. So.
Okay, all right. Well, anyway, so yeah, they bring her in to figure out this string of murders because they've kind of like reached the end of their rope in there, and they need to get something done quickly because they don't want this person to strike again.
But they're not convinced it's a serial killer. They don't think that the murders are related, and she's basically brought in to say they're related or to see if they're related. She
yeah,
realizes
yes
they
or no.
are, and then she says, "Make me the head of this task force." And they're like, "It's not even really happening." And she's like, "Why'd you bring me here?
Mm-hmm.
You brought me here to tell you this, and I'm telling you this is. Oh, but you're only telling us that so you can be head of the task force." And she's like, "Why would I do that? Like, what would be the reason for me? I'll go home.
Exactly.
I'm not going to sleep in a cot in my office." It's interesting that all three of the shows that we're talking about all the characters are very focused on a means to an end. Mm-hmm. Everything has a ritual, even good and bad, evil and very good people in these shows all have a ritual behind what they do. She, Gillian Anderson, dreams and wakes up and writes down in a journal her dreams. She keeps a dream journal, I guess is what you'd call it. She has her way of doing things all the way to the point where, did you notice that her shoes are in the exact same place by the cot where she sleeps in the office?
No, I didn't know
yeah.
that.
Yeah. And the position and everything. So they're very meticulous about what they do. Same with the serial killer in The Fall. Same with True Detectives, same with House of Cards, how meticulous these people are about what they want in their lives. Interesting.
Well, it seems like she probably gets some sort of like a lot of people who are obsessive to that point, or who are, very particular about things like that. I mean, she's also riding that wave of, trying to be normal, or trying to be, whatever, fit in, or trying to fill that gap or whatever that she has, that she's obviously different. She goes out and she's just like,
I don't think she cares what you think, if she's different or not. She says it to that guy. Yes, I had sex with that guy, and I think you're uncomfortable with me having sex and being in a power position.
but she's also, and she's all,
I don't
but she's
think
also,
she gives one flying,
no, that she's flawed, and she knows that she's flawed. She's very self-aware, I think, and she knows that something's going on. That's why she writes in those dream journals.
I think she writes in those dream journals to help her investigations.
You think so?
Definitely.
Well, and I think that the big thing about her character is that she's a chauvinist. Not chauvinist isn't the word. She's like a male character. She is a male character, but she's female. So she's also acting from a position of power, like most men do in shows like this. You're not.
No, I'm thinking that's a
any
tad bit chauvinistic and sexist.
to say that.
A little bit.
People
Not
don't
you.
expect. People would expect a man to just waltz into town and just like sleep with whoever he wants, but they wouldn't expect a woman as this character.
That's why I'm saying what I'm saying, that
Yeah.
she doesn't care what you think of her, that she is meticulous and she's in control of her life,
Okay.
and she sees what she wants. She goes out and she gets it, and then she's not apologetic about it. That's the rest of the world having trouble with that, not her having trouble with that. I don't think that makes her at all, a mess or out of whack or anything, or trying to be normal is what you said. I don't think she cares about any of that. This is the life that she's chosen, and this is how she's going to lead her life. And it's interesting that you would say that she's the male character when this is what she's brought in to do. And then when she's doing it better than everybody else. And she's right on from the beginning, dead on from the beginning. She's like, it's him. It's this, it's that, it's this. Look at this.
This is the profile.
This is it. But you're right. It is a world that a man probably would have been believed quicker. But at the same time, the fact that we can't place, it has nothing to do with gender for me. It's just a person who's really good at what they do.
Sure.
I guess
No, I agree with that. But I'm saying from a viewer standpoint, that's also kind of like a different twist that this show gives that most shows don't give. You don't normally see. I mean, can you think of another show that has someone in this type of a role?
The
that
X-Files.
Well, that's the same actress.
I hate to say it, but
Yeah.
it's true. No, they're
I just
all
mean, like-
over the place. Gemma Teller from Sons of Anarchy. She's she's the matriarch of the family. She's the mother. She's the grandmother. She's the MILF. She's the GILF, whatever they call them.
Yeah.
I mean, they use those terms in the show. That's not my term. I'm using. But she's also the leader of this gang of family.
But
she's the Tony
taking-
Soprano.
Yeah, and she takes what she wants and she gets what she wants. She does it. Yeah. Okay.
And the only
it's
difference...
It's good. I guess what I'm saying is that it's good that there's writers and that are willing to, and that are getting things made that are saying like that this is not, it's not just about men that can wield power.
Oh,
Women
okay.
can
I
wield
got what
power
you're saying.
too.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't
Sorry,
think
I didn't mean to
think
point
that's
that you're
no.
a
I mean,
sexist
I'm not
finger
saying
at
that
you.
I'm sexist, and I'm saying that I think that it brings it makes a bunch of different situations come to light. You talk a lot about father-son relationships and about how most of the movies that we talk about and most of the movies that are made
90%.
can boil down to a father-son relationship. Well, this show can boil down to a father-daughter relationship.
Yep.
And
It's nice to see that pattern broken. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and so that's, I mean, it's kind of the same, but it's also a little bit different. So, and the way that it's two father-daughter relationships, really. I mean, because it's you get to see him with his, you get to see the serial killer with his daughter, and you're wrestling with, like we said, how does he juxtapose doing these two things in one night, even?
Yeah.
Three things in one night, really. Like, I mean, he's able to go kill a woman, go, like seduce a 15-year-old. I mean, he didn't have to do much seduction, but he goes through that, and then he's able to, tuck his kid in or something,
Get in bed with her and fall asleep with her. It's crazy.
Yeah. And that's obviously somebody who's, I mean, his relationship with women is all over the place. I mean, his mom killed herself. And so, I mean, I guess I don't know what to say about this show.
Well, it's so perplexing. It's worth watching. I thought actually talking about this after talking about True Detectives would be a little anticlimactic, but it's not, because it's just extremely well-written TV where you're right. Have we ever seen the other side of a serial killer where they have been married to a person who looks like a real woman in real life?
Yeah.
She looks like an everyday person, which is
And
great.
she's a nurse. She's
a nurse. I mean,
yeah.
she's attractive, but it's not like she's a very good-looking actress who's playing this part and they're dumbing her down to play this part. She really looks like a 20, early 30-something mother who goes to work every day, who looks like everybody you see in the supermarket. It's nice to see that.
And they changed the whole thing around. I mean, this guy, like we said, he's not the guy who has the skin suit and all that stuff. He's an attractive, younger man, and you find yourself once again when there's there's a situation where he goes and he's trying to kill a woman, but it kind of gets a little out of hand because somebody else comes in, and so you're like, who am I rooting for here?
Yeah.
Like, am I rooting for him to get away? Am I rooting for this woman to not be killed, or this other guy to not be killed? I mean, turns out like the guy gets killed and the woman survives, but it makes you question things. And like I've invested so much time with this one character, and now you have to fight that that urge to be like, to root for the guy who as opposed to,
what is it about our human psyche that makes us attracted to characters that are not good people, and root for them and hope they get out of the situation they put themselves in? It's his fault. He's
sure,
there.
Of course it is.
Like a stalking murderer psychopath. But yet at the same time, you're like, wait, that guy's coming up the stairs. Turn around, turn around, turn around. And you're like, wait, did I just scream for the serial killer to get away? What just happened here? What is it about our human need?
Yeah, and
maybe because we have some kind of instinct in us to act like that animalistically. And so, is that a word?
Yeah.
And then when we see other people doing it, we're relieved that that's not our lives. That, we have good and evil.
Which is like an outlet type of a thing?
Maybe. I'm not saying that we all have like this serial killer need in us, but maybe not to do the right thing on some kind of basic level every day. It's about right and wrong and making good choices and bad choices. I mean, those are really bad choices he makes.
Yeah, but then it also makes you wanna understand him too. Like I wanna so I don't have those tendencies. Like that stuff doesn't go through my mind. So like I wanna sit down and say like, what pushes him towards this? Like, is it something that happened in his past, or is it a chemical imbalance or something? Like, well, if that's the case, then like, I mean, then you start thinking like, well, what do you do to help these people? Or do you help these people? Or do you just lock them up forever and make sure they don't touch anybody or see anybody or whatever, so, but at the same time, you want to try to understand where he's coming from. And
interesting, because we said nothing about the guy in True Detectives about trying to find out where he came from. We were just like,
get him out of here.
Evil. It's interesting how we can categorize evil and how we can categorize good and bad, and how even though the serial killer in The Fall is as evil as the guy in True Detectives, to a degree, you say one is a little less evil.
I wonder if it has something to do with children being involved.
Could be, but there's children involved in The Fall. I mean, she's 15, that girl.
Yeah. Oh,
and
that's
then
true,
his
yeah.
daughter, and then
Well, I mean, he doesn't do anything to his daughter.
I know, but still,
at least we don't see anything. But
no, that we know of. But
Yeah.
what is the psychological ramifications of
Oh,
being
sure.
a serial killer's daughter?
oh yeah, she's gonna be ruined forever.
Yeah, right. So it
That
doesn't matter.
whole
Yeah,
flat circle thing.
Oh, there we go, loop to loop. Forget about it. I don't know. Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah. And then the last few episodes, I mean, you really start finding out a lot more, especially about her, because we don't really get to read her journal, do we? Like,
He does.
he reads her journal, and so in the last one or last two episodes, he starts talking about her relationship with her dad, and you can see that there's a powerful scene where he's been arrested. He gets to say goodbye to his daughter, basically. The serial killer gets to say goodbye to his daughter, and then you see them. He's not talking to his daughter, which is weird. He's talking to her.
Yeah.
And it's just weird. He has this opportunity to say goodbye to his daughter, probably for a very, very long time. And he does not take that opportunity. He twists the knife or whatever into the investigator because I don't know why. Is it because he's
Histrionics, narcissism,
But
self.
does he feel a connection to her, like a genuine connection to her?
Well-
or is he just playing her, like playing on her insecurity as far as her father's concerned?
I think it's all of the above. Why is Clarice and Hannibal probably would be friends in any other scenario in Silence of the Lambs? They're connected on some kind of same level. He even says that in Silence of the Lambs. He says something to the effect of, "You're on my level," something like that. So because Gillian Anderson has figured out who he is and put it all together, he is impressed with her being able to do all that stuff. So it's more interesting to me that he uses that moment to not say goodbye to his daughter, just like he's used every moment in his daughter's life for some other alternative motive. He
just
uses
does not
his
care.
daughter to follow the girl through the park.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So I just think it's two sides of a coin. You know, Gillian Anderson, by all means, is the good side of the coin, and then the flip side is him. And it takes just as much meticulous brain energy to be him as it does to be her.
Yeah.
So it's almost, in a way, he's almost congratulating her at the end, kind of saying, you know, don't count me out just yet, but you're just as screwed up as I am. You just don't realize it. So
But she takes that to heart. You can tell that she takes that to heart, what he says.
she's also broken at that point because it's close to the end of the show.
Yeah.
So
and then so
end of
we're
her
gonna,
journey.
Yeah, we're gonna speak about the very end of the show. So I mean, hopefully you've already seen this if you've listened to this far. But okay, so the very end of the show, he gets shot by this guy. I mean, that's another one of these devices. The only reason that guy and his wife are in this show is so that he can shoot.
No, not true.
You don't think so?
Well, yeah, of course, but it's well written though.
What did it add to the...
Because he is a counselor.
He is a counselor.
He uses her as a manipulation to get around the city at one point, to get into a place he would never have been able to get into. And then when he gets caught in that place, he uses her as a catalyst to get out of it. Because he goes and he's stalking that one girl, and then the gangs of whatever that city streets are like,
okay.
hey, who are you? And he's like, I'm
That's
so-and-so,
right.
I'm
I'm
the counselor,
here to-
or such and such,
Okay.
which puts him even in more jeopardy, because that's a whole crazy segment.
Is that
of,
all in the second season?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, what you would call the second season, because I don't even think of it as 2 seasons. I think of
Well,
it as
I watched
16
the first season.
episodes.
Yeah, I watched the first season like last summer or something, and then the second season came out over the last couple months. So I did watch it in kind of 2 chunks, and so
Yeah,
was
see, I did,
wondering-
and I got to watch them back to back.
That's nice.
Yeah, Netflix it.
That's nice. Okay, so the very end, he shoots the Jamie Dornan character, the serial killer, in the stomach, bleeding out, and then it seems like initially Gillian Anderson runs over to like, we need to save this guy so that we can prosecute him and put him in jail forever. But you quickly realize that she is like seriously involved in his well-being. I mean, she wants him to be saved. Like she's emotionally impacted by it.
There's a term for that, isn't there? What's it called when you're a kidnapped victim and you
Stockholm syndrome.
Is that what that's called? Mm-hmm. Where you now you have a hard time.
You identify more with your captor than with anybody else.
Well, when you go to court and you need to testify,
mm-hmm.
you tend to take that person's side to things and you find justifications because you've been so victimized by this person. You start to see their side of
mm-hmm.
whatever the situation is. What is the word? Sympathize. You sympathize with your abuser. Mm-hmm. Well, you know, if I wasn't at that hotel at that wrong time, he wouldn't have seen me, and
it's
he
not
wouldn't
his fault.
Yeah, he had no other choice. He was a lonely guy. You know, they sympathize. And I read a book about a woman who was kidnapped and kept underneath this guy's bed in a cage. Real life. Yeah. It set a couple precedents for the law because she was allowed to, years later after he had her for this period of time, go out and start to work. And people were like, well, wait a second. If you were a victim and you were abducted and you were held captive by this guy, how can you go to a job and not just run away because of this syndrome? Because, you know, this guy's got her so convinced of his side and he's going to kill her parents and all this other stuff. She's afraid to pick up the phone. She's afraid to look at anybody. Mm-hmm. She starts to forget her real name, starts to believe her real name is whatever he gave her. So I think that's what's happening at the end of The Fall. I think that she is so invested in him as a case study that he transcends that and becomes a human being in front of her. And regardless of whether or not what he's done, now an unjust thing has been done to him, and she basically doesn't know how to handle it.
And do you feel like she gets some kind of a feeling from? Does she get some kind of a validation from him that she never got from her dad?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, maybe
because that's effectively what that scene was, with him saying like, "I love you, I appreciate you, you're," you know, I can't remember all the stuff that he said, but he's pretty much saying like, you're a good, you know, girl. I mean, he's giving her all that affirmation that it sounds like she never got.
Huh? Yeah, maybe when I watch it a second time, I'll see that. But yeah, no, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a good question.
And so it's kind of like she's holding. I mean, this is a stretch. Kind of like she's holding her dying dad, you know, which is a weird way to go with it.
I don't know. I like it.
Yeah.
It made it even that much more interesting to me. So, yeah.
So what would you think if they didn't make another season in the fall? I don't know if they are or not.
Well, what would they make it about? Because isn't
well, you don't know if he's dead or not.
Oh, I assume he's dead. I just assumed he was dead.
Oh, I don't think so.
See, it's interesting how my brain is so imaginative. I can imagine these 1,000 different worlds and these 1,000 different concepts, but I'm so definitive about certain things. I was like,
you're like, oh, he's dead.
Dead. And, you know, it's a perfect way to end it. Like, he's dead. I never even thought twice that he wasn't dead. So you're thinking he might not be dead and they can pursue another season based on him.
Yeah, being alive.
I don't think they. Oh, excuse me. I don't think they need to.
Yeah,
I think they told the story they needed to tell.
Yeah, I do too. And I was talking to a guy at work today about that too. And yeah, I think he agrees. I mean, he would be completely happy with them, you know, being done with it. And
are they planning on making?
I don't know. She just signed on for X-Files again. So
right, and that's just what, a mini series or
8 episodes, I think.
Yeah,
it's gonna be on Fox. So,
good for them.
Yeah. That's the power of the internet right there.
We're not done with their story. We're just not.
The
two movies were okay.
Yeah, I don't know much about. Were the movies just kind of like long episodes, or?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think about. The movies just seemed like the first one seemed like Is there two? See, I can't even remember if there's
I don't
two
know.
now. There's two, right? There's two X-Files films.
Let me look it up.
Maybe the first one just seemed so long that I thought it was two. It just seemed like an excuse to put those people on the big screen. It didn't seem like the story was warranted enough for a different type of storytelling of these people.
There's one.
Oh my God, I thought it was two.
It was that long, huh?
Well, I guess. Why did I think it was two?
It's called The X-Files. I Want to Believe came out in 2008. And
And there's not another one?
no.
That's bizarre.
No, but you know what though? If you look at who came from that show, I mean, Vince Gilligan came from that show.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
she got a bunch of big people who kind of like came from that show. So maybe they're trying to figure out a way to get them all back together.
I'm trying to figure out how I thought there was two of them, two movies. I don't know if that's a cut down or a compliment.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, we didn't really talk about. I mean, some of the stuff that he says in there is, you know, they try to. I guess they try to explain his demeanor. I mean, I wrote down some things that he said, like when he was saying them. You know, like he has to. You know, he feels like you have to make a choice. You know, suffering. Your life has to be about suffering and pain, or light and joy. And he gets pleasure out of other people's pain because he can't feel like genuine joy, I guess. The only way he can get any kind of pleasure is if seeing other people suffer. And yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the character in The Fall now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's
Nothing
okay.
about X-Files.
No, I'm back over thinking about how is there two movies?
Yeah.
There's two movies.
Well, and there's it would be, yeah, if as far as The Fall is concerned, if there's no more episodes, I think that it was good. And I'm going to believe that that we don't know if he lives or not. But he may have died. I'm not sure.
What makes you think that he didn't? Or
I
what
felt
makes
like his eyes were still moving at when they cut the black. And also when they cut the black, it was like music. Instead of like he dies, the sound goes down, fade to black, wait a beat, here's some credits. It was like you know, there's a helicopter above her.
Yeah.
She's crying. She's going crazy. His eyes are going a little, you know, whatever. He's looking up at the sky, and then it's like boom, and then we're into the music. There's credits. I'll go. You know.
But then where does the story go from there? The criminal or the court case? I mean, that's not what the show's about. The show.
No, it's not what the show's about. I mean, there's all. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a writer, but you could talk about how like the analysis of his analysis, like the analysis of him as a person. You know, using him to get in the minds of other people.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, a la everything else.
Yeah.
No, he died.
It would be. I think it would be cleaner if he died. But I don't know.
You know what I find fascinating? That my mind thinks there's two X-File films, but I'm so definitive about the fact that, you know, he died.
Well, you probably wanted him to die because that was it. It's over. But like to me, it's in some ways it's kind of
I thought it made sense.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not as satisfying. I think.
For me, I think, well, how else? How else would this end? See, I just assumed it was an ending. Now my mind is being blown by all these things that you're saying
all
because
these possibilities.
Well, now I need to rewatch it because
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, was his eyes flickering? And there was music. There was an ending, like there was going to be another show. But it's just
like a cliffhanger. I don't know. So anyway, all right. Well, okay. I think that we've exhausted as much as we can about these. We could talk forever about each one of these shows,
Yeah.
I think. But I mean, it's. I think that hopefully everybody's listening to this point has seen The Fall. But shows like that, I mean, there's shows that are out there. One of them's called The Affair that I have not watched. That's on Showtime.
Yeah, I hear a lot of great things about it.
Yeah, and then there's no Top of the Lake, which has Elizabeth Moss, I think, in it, from Mad Men. And that's another one. I think that's about a crime.
What's the one with the guy from Friday Night Lights? Bloodline or whatever.
Bloodline, yeah,
Is that a
with
new
Kyle Chandler. I'm gonna have to watch that.
What is that about? Do we know?
It's about a family. I guess they're in the Florida Keys or something,
Okay.
or somewhere in the Gulf or something. And the patriarch of the family dies. The family that has money, and there's a black sheep of the family that comes back and integrates himself back into the family due to, I think, the father that dies, and bad stuff happens. And the black sheep is played by Ben Mendelsohn, who is in, he's been in a bunch of movies. He was in the Beyond the Pines. He was in, is that what it's called? Yeah, Beyond the Two Pines or whatever it's called, with Ryan Gosling with the rolling eyes of Paul.
Yeah.
And let's see, he's been in other movies. He was in the Killing Me Softly.
Yeah,
Brad Pitt.
Yeah, I've seen all these films, and
Yeah, he was in that movie.
it's
Anyway,
as if I didn't see any of them.
yeah, he's been in a couple other movies. I think he's
Well, anyway, the
Australian.
reason why I
Yeah.
brought that up is because every time I see a trailer or a commercial for Bloodline, it stops me, and I go, "What is this?" So I know it's something I need to invest some time in, but I know I've got to take my time because it's going to be
Involved.
you're going to invest yourself. That's what I would say about these three shows too.
Uh-huh.
House of Cards, which will continue on, True Detectives, which will continue on, sort of, and then who knows with The Fall now. But these are not easy shows.
No.
They are not easy watches. To be watched, it's not easy. You have to be prepared. This is thought-provoking, really serious stuff in places. And you can make jokes about the circle thing. You can make jokes about serial killers that make it easier for you to be able to watch things like this. But I was thinking while we were talking, what is it about the human nature that makes us want to watch these stories? I think for me personally, I'm glad that's not my life.
Mm-hmm.
That my life is pretty doggone good, and that I'm glad I'm getting to see in HD on a screen that I can turn off at any split second
Yep.
and never deal with it again.
What?
Nothing true is for me.
Yeah.
There's nothing real in those worlds for me in my world, so I'm good.
And you're making me realize this now, is that I make fun of people who watch reality TV, and this is kind of like reality TV.
Yeah, but
It's just not. It's just very artfully made.
extremely well written with way more
Instead of me,
intentions to be
Yeah.
thought-provoking.
yeah, that's true.
If you're
You can
going to
get more
put
out of it.
Shakespeare as the guide of what is really great, or the Bible is what is really well written,
Mm-hmm.
if we're talking about reality TV is not even on the same scale or universe as the Bible or Shakespeare, these shows are on the same scale, not the same, not
No, I
equivalent.
see what you're saying.
But
But the craft, the art that is used is a higher level, and more care is being taken, and I think you can get more out of it than you can out of Say Yes to the Dress or whatever.
so what was your point about you
Well,
make fun about the reality?
I'm saying I make fun about the reality shows because people watch those and be like, well, I'm not as dumb as that guy.
Yeah.
What's the point of watching idiots on TV other than to be like, well, that guy's so dumb.
But people admire
I'm not-
these people.
Oh, well,
There's
can't
a
help
whole
that.
Kardashian beginning of the show. I happened to flip through it. They're
Yeah.
talking about wanting to get tapeworms so they can
No,
get skinny.
no.
I swear. I was like, wait, what?
Well, you can't help those people.
When you flip to it and you're already prejudged it and you think
Yeah.
you're a better person because you don't watch it, and then you see that, it's hard to not go, okay, I do feel like a
yeah.
better person that I don't watch this. Good for you.
Yeah.
Congratulations. This is your life. I don't know you. I have no idea if you're a good or bad person. I'm not here to judge you,
Mm-hmm.
but you want to buy a tapeworm so you can be skinny. I swear that's the beginning of one of the I don't even know what
Yeah.
part of it was. So if we're talking about a scale, I can understand where you might be a little bit more judgmental about people who watch
Sure.
those shows.
But we get a similar thing out of these shows in that we say, like, like I can dip my toe into some of this weird psychosis that this person's going through, and then I can back right out and I can make some eggs and
Yeah.
whatever.
Gotcha.
So it's the same thing. So, all right. Well, I'm gonna read this description at the top of the lake because I didn't know too much about it. It's when pregnant 12-year-old Tui tries to kill herself in a freezing New Zealand lake. Detective Robin Griffin has plenty of questions for the girl, but when Tui suddenly disappears, Griffin finds herself knee deep in small town secrets. That sounds
12
interesting.
years old.
Yeah. Jane Campion
From
wrote
the piano.
wrote and created this show.
She's on the edge.
Yeah, and Elizabeth Moss won a Golden Globe for it, for Best Actress.
Oh yeah.
In a miniseries.
Oh yeah, that's right. I know this. Yeah.
So yeah. I don't know. It's a Sundance Channel thing, so I don't know how that all works out, but yeah, I might have to seek that out. Sounds difficult, but
Absolutely.
But hopefully there's something in there that we can glean from it. All right, so if you guys want to let us know what you think about these shows, you can go to actorandengineer.com and you can give us a comment, or you can just go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/actorandengineer, and you can post on there, or you can check us out on Twitter @actorengineer. So I think we're going to try to see Ex Machina.
Yes.
So we can talk about it next week.
Yeah.
So that I'm kind of excited about that movie.
Yeah.
I'm expecting a lot out of it. So we'll see what happens. All right. Well, see you next week.
Until then.